reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Hope everyone had a great weekend out there. Happy Monday to all of you. And boy, do we have a busy show lined up for you today. You might be watching on the Occupy Democrats Network. We're on the Washington Press Network, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, of course, the FM AM dial in Las Vegas, pushingthelimits.live. And we don't want to waste any more time. We appreciate you being here. And so much to get to today. Of course, the wildfires. We're going to talk about that. J.D. Vance over the weekend saying that apparently violent criminals on January 6th will not be pardoned. That's angering some in the MAGA base, going after J.D. Vance, kind of like how they've been going after Elon Musk with these visas. So we'll get into that a little bit later on in the program as well. The same deal that has been taking place all week long took place over the weekend, where MAGA Republicans are throwing out misinformation, erroneous reports, and lies to try to score political points. We are going to be covering that today. We are going to be trying to report the facts to you, and the fact that more people are losing their lives, sadly, by the day. It is a tragedy. It's awful. And then you have people like James Woods doing interviews on CNN crying, claiming that he lost his home, when it turns out that he didn't lose his home at all. Where were all these people during COVID, when Donald Trump was president of the United States, when we were losing 3,000 to 5,000 people a day? Where were they? Where were all these Republicans during the power grid failure in Texas when Ted Cruz went to Cancun? Where were they? All these hurricanes in Florida. Did they ask Ron DeSantis to step down? Did they ask the governor of Texas, Governor Abhol? Did they ask him to step down? Did they ask Donald Trump to step down during COVID? The answer is no. All they care about is scoring political points, and it's a joke. So to talk about this, any other topics, one of my favorite follows on social media. He does such a great job, and it's always a pleasure having him on the show to talk about. Ryan Sheed joining us right now on the program. Mr. Sheed, it is a pleasure to have you. And
it's good.
Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you doing?
Doing good, Ryan.
Well, first off, before we go, the last name is Shed.
Did I pronounce your name wrong?
Dude,
Shed.
Well, first off, people have been doing it since I was in third grade, so don't feel bad. That's how most people say it. So,
my apologies.
No worries.
Shed.
No worries. And by the way, we don't get a chance to talk in the green room or anything before this, so it's just exactly. Yeah.
This is true. Well, Ryan, sorry about that. I appreciate you being
all
here.
Good.
I think we both agree. I want to start with the fires in California.
Yeah.
The misinformation, the attacks on Gavin Newsom and the mayor, when these people, apparently they're all firefighter experts now. They're experts on water and how to put out fires. What do you make of all the misinformation and so many MAGA Republicans that are trying to score political points here?
Well, I really like what you said leading into this, that it's just become this big political hot potato, and it shouldn't be. And even I've, put some comments out there that you're like, okay, I need to back off of that. People are losing everything. There's been lives lost, I think. I believe that's true. So, of course, we need to keep in mind those things. But it's from the left, my side, it's becoming more and more difficult to have any type of empathy or compassion towards these people. Because as you said, when other times, when other communities need that compassion, that empathy, we don't see it from them. So it becomes more difficult for us as good people to still do that. And I know the argument is, well, we need to go high. I think that time has come and gone. And I think we have enough people on the left covering the high ground. And I think I'm going to stay down here and lead the charge down a little lower, and we'll see what happens. But as you said, I think the most important comment that needs to be made is nobody wants to see this. This is devastating, and I definitely don't want to be part of playing the politics. Yeah. But as you said, and getting back to the question, we can't ignore the misinformation coming out. One of the biggest ones I saw, and I posted on my Twitter, was a guy saying, oh, my brother's a firefighter up in Oregon, and he just told me that they're stopping 70 fire trucks because of emissions from going into California, which, of course, the organization that he claimed his brother worked for came out and totally debunked it, which I shared. And so it's just like you guys you have no shame. You will use anything as long as you can twist it for some type of benefit for either Donald Trump or your MAGA agenda.
I agree. And, Ryan, you had reposted something on your Twitter page of the donations from some of these bigger companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, and others that have donated in upwards of $1 million or more to Donald Trump.
Yes.
And no money. They haven't donated so far any money to help the victims in LA. And then you just put up Taylor Swift, $0 to Donald Trump, $10 million to the LA fires. And by the way, there's a lot of other celebrities and big names that are doing the exact same thing, and kudos to them. And then you have James Woods. Speaking of celebrities, now I've always said James Wood is a despicable human being, but I don't wish any of this stuff upon him, right? And when I saw that interview on CNN that he did, I played it and I said, listen, I feel for the man, I feel for his family. And then it turns out his home didn't even burn down.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, all he's doing all day is tweeting out stuff about Gavin Newsom and the mayor of LA. His home didn't even burn down. He lied on CNN.
Yeah. And a big shout out to James Woods, who blocked me a year ago for calling him out for something else.
Blocked me too, Ryan. We have that in common.
We have that. It seems to be common around us liberals. But no, so I can't sit here and be a hypocrite. When I said that I posted a few things that I probably should back off of, that was one of them. Right. Again, and I said something along the lines of, I've seen so many hateful things come from that man through his social media that I don't have any compassion for him. And as you said, then to find out that he was clutching his pearls and crying when he didn't even know for sure if his house was gone or not. So here you are, where so many people were focused on James Woods. Well, there's actually other people and other celebrities losing their houses, and
sure,
he didn't even lose his. So again, it's just these people are willing to grab onto anything. And if they think that he can use it to, raise money, get attention, whatever it is that they need to feed their ego with, they will use it.
And I think of other celebrities out there, and there's plenty of them, but just to name one, Angelina Jolie, who's not only helping people and raising money to help the victims, but she's put literally dozens and dozens of displaced people in her home, strangers, people she doesn't even know, which I think is so admirable. And I get so angry, Ryan, when I see the Elon Musks of the world. Now, I know he's doing some things to help people, but this is a guy who donated literally $250 million to Donald Trump's campaign. How much money has he donated to helping the victims? This is the richest man in the world. And I see all these other people on the far right all day long, popular Twitter accounts from conservatives, whether it be a Jack Posobiec or others, all they do all day long is attack Gavin Newsom to try to get engagements on Twitter and make money for themselves. And I just think it's so despicable.
It is, I think with all of us on social media, content creators, whatever you want to call us, we're trying to make money. There's a way to do it. There's a right way to do it. Everybody's time is worth something. Yeah. That said, we know why Elon Musk purchased this social media platform. A lot of people pointed it out at the time. Unfortunately, we were not only correct, but it was probably worse than we thought. And I'm glad you brought that up, because we were talking about this on our podcast, Hold the Mic, this past week, was the $250 million. That's how much money we could track. And what I mean by that is, and this shout out to Ian for bringing this up, was there were also funneling money to right-wing extreme accounts through Twitter X, and I was getting paid. So now the interesting part was some of these big accounts posted how much they were making, and I would look at their following and I'd be like, my following's almost as big as yours, but you're bringing in $10,000 a month and I'm bringing in $300 a month. Why is that? So, and then he switched how we got paid as soon as the election was over. So I went from making $400 a month on there to making $40 a month. And then he upped the fee to pay for the blue check mark to $30. So now I'm not even getting paid enough to cover the blue check mark. So I just canceled it. But what he would do was he would funnel the money through there, and these people would get $10, $20, $30, $40,000 put in their account every 15 days. And they were posting it. They were oh, look at this. And it's like, oh, you guys are getting a lot of money to spread the propaganda you're spreading, and to pay for the bot farms that are pushing this agenda. It's really insane when you sit down, and because I'm involved in some of the little inner workings, it's just really eye-opening as to how blatant this misinformation press tour really was.
Incredible, because you have a very large following on social media, and you're not the first person to tell me this. People that have 20 times the following that I have, even in the millions, are making peanuts on X. Peanuts.
Yep.
You go on YouTube and other platforms, they're making much more money. Let's be real about this. Elon Musk is stealing money from people. Even
100%.
some people on the right that have large platforms are making peanuts. So I find that very, very interesting. But this is who Elon Musk is. I wanted to switch topics. If you're just joining us, Ryan Chedd joining us on the show. I pronounced your last name right. Hopefully
Thanks,
that's
appreciate you.
yeah. Sorry about that.
No, all good, bro.
I wanted to talk to you about John Fetterman, because we might have the same opinion here. I don't know what your opinion is on this, but there are reports now that, as you know, that Fetterman is going to be meeting with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. I got to be honest with you. I don't have a problem with this.
Really?
I really don't. The reality of the situation, this is my take, and I want to get yours.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Donald Trump's going to be the president. He's going to be here for 4 years. Doesn't mean you have to kiss the ring. I don't think Fetterman is going to do that. At least I hope not. To have a conversation with him, to me, is better for the country than not having a conversation at all. Now, listen, I don't think he's going to do what like a Kevin McCarthy did or some of these MAGA Republicans. I think Fetterman is there for the same reason why he spoke to Stefanik is, listen, I represent everybody in Pennsylvania, and I want to meet with people on the other side and have conversations. I personally don't have a problem with it. What is your take on it, Ryan?
I think if it was just by itself, I probably would be okay with it. And I think where you and I might disagree is the ring kissing part. Mm-hmm. I think him going down to Mar-a-Lago is the ring kissing.
Really? Okay.
Yes. I think you want to have a discussion with him? Cool. Have it up in Washington, D.C., where everybody else does business. Mm-hmm. And by the way, could you maybe put on a shirt and tie, maybe a coat when you meet with the president?
The fair criticism.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, but that's not the only time he stepped out of pocket and made liberals go, what?
Yeah.
He literally has
doing this. Why do you think he's doing this then?
Well, I think you're on point. I think he lives in Pennsylvania. You know, it's a red area. You know, it's a red state, and even if it's purple, like you said, he's still got to play both sides of the fence. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Like you said, at some point we're gonna have to put the swords down. Yeah, right. I don't think it's right now. You know, I think the fight is we're still in the middle of it. But at some point, we are going to have to look at each other and say, okay, this is over. This isn't getting us anywhere. It's just driving us further down in debt, further down in holes, into more wars. Like, let's figure this out now. And I think that Fetterman's approach is how we get there. But right now, where we are, knowing that we just elected or we just certified an election for a felon and an adjudicated, we all know what, it's like that part to me is mind boggling. So
can I ask you about that too?
Yeah, please.
So the comment, which, adjudicated rapist is the comment that many people on the far right say is not true and it's wrong. And my explanation, and I know you've talked about this too, my explanation to it is this. As you know, he's a liable sexual abuser. Yes. The judge presiding in the case characterized it as rape.
Yes.
And I believe the only reason why George Stephanopoulos got sued, but the only reason why they paid it off, I believe, is so they could get an interview with Donald Trump. They got an interview with Donald Trump a couple days later. That is not a coincidence. So I believe they paid out this amount of money in part because they had some sort of agreement behind closed doors where they would get that next interview with him. That's what I think. Now, if he wants to sue everybody for calling him an adjudicated rapist, the judge characterized it as rape. He's a liable sexual abuser. And I think that's extremely factual.
Yeah. To somebody in the comments said, have I ever thought about wearing blue? I do have a blue. I just wore it the other day. So, but no, here's the thing. Everybody in my comments when I say, because I post it several times a day. And by the way, go to my social media, everybody, especially on Twitter, Mr. Community Notes, Elon Musk, and see how many times I've been community noted for stating this exact fact. And since you said the word, I'm going to assume it's okay we say it. Donald Trump is a convicted felon. He is an adjudicated rapist. He is an accused P to the D to the O. He is also a prolific business fraud who has had to pay out defrauding Americans. I can't tell you how many times. 25 million Trump University, $30,000 for the $3.1 million fraud scheme in 1992 at the casino with his father. Go look it up. Google me. Don't just listen to me. I'm not trying to start a cult. I just want you to be educated. So the fact of the matter is that this dude is going to take the White House. We all know what he is. And every 77 million person American out there that voted for Donald Trump knows that he is a felon, that he is a rapist, that he has been accused of raping a 13-year-old girl. And if you are willing to vote for that because of the economy, then we do not have a difference in political opinions. We have a difference in morals and principles.
I agree with everything you just said, Ryan. And I think Nancy Mace, and you could tell me if you disagree, is a perfect example of where the MAGA Republican Party is at, right? I mean, she claims that she was raped when she was 16 years old.
Yeah.
There are over 25 women that have claimed, allegedly, that Donald Trump sexually abused them or raped them, including his ex-wife in court documents in a deposition.
Yes, sir.
So she doesn't want to believe those 25 plus women. She supports Donald Trump. And then if you bring that up, somehow you're shaming her. She's the one who tweets 1,000 times about how she's so proud about how one of her trans woman coworkers can't use the woman's restroom. She's so proud about that. She's campaigned off of it and sold shirts about that.
Yeah.
But then after like a school shooting or something, you're lucky if you get one tweet from her. Thoughts and prayers.
Yep. It's never about protecting the children. It's always about political agenda with her. And I just want to give a shout out to my transgender family out there. You guys have given me the space to educate myself and become a better ally. And I hope that we can spread that in the coming years. It's very sickening for me I think because I've made friends with so many transgender folks over the last 4 or 5 years purposely, that it has become very personal for me. So it's like every time she comes out and says one of these things, I'm in the comment section every time telling her exactly what you just said. Right. Like this coming from the woman who just put a rapist and an accused, pedo in the White House. Like he's a felon. He's a criminal. He's a fraud. He's been a fraud for 30 years. This isn't anything new. We all know it. He's got court documents going back 30 years saying he's a fraud. And we just let him continue to do it. And we keep putting him in higher positions. Like this dude is literally the perfect example of failing up in the United States.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I agree with you. And like I said, this is where the Republican Party is at today. I think Nancy Mace is a perfect example of that. She was against 100%. Donald Trump, but then when she needed Donald Trump to get into office, she needed his support. She kissed the ring. And that's where most of the Republican Party is at today. How much concern do you have? I mean, coming up here, we're going to have these hearings when it comes to Pete Hegseth, when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard, when it comes to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and others. How concerned are you that they are actually going to be put in these positions? I actually think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to make it. I don't know about Pete Hegseth. Boy, I hope Tulsi Gabbard doesn't get in. I do believe she's a Russian asset. How concerned are you, Ryan, about these people that are so unqualified for these positions?
What's sad is as you were laying that out, Robert F. Kennedy will probably get in. Let's hope Hegseth doesn't. And oh my God, hopefully Tulsi. That's really the perfect rundown of what we're looking at. Most of us, it's like, we don't want Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Like the dude that's got a brain worm that long ago starved, is definitely not our guy. But unfortunately, we'll take him over the Tulsi Gabbard, who's on the no-fly terrorist watch list, for those of you who don't know.
That's very true, actually. A lot of people don't even realize what you just said. Yeah, you're right. She is. Yep. For a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And she keeps asking, well, what's the reason? Like, they've told you a few times now. Like, you can keep asking, but they keep telling you, and you just don't want to believe it. Yep. It's just insane to me that in 2019, 2020, when I really started doing this social media thing, that when we looked at Tulsi Gabbard, the things that were being said about her at the time, some of them seemed so outlandish that you're like, that can't be. Like, there's no way somebody makes it on the stage at a Democratic primary for president and these things are accurate.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then you watch what happened, like right after that, and it was just like, oh, I guess we were wrong, and she is exactly who they said she was. Like, nobody runs from the Democratic Party as fast as she did and do as little as she was doing for fellow Democrats in the Democratic Party, and then literally flip over to the MAGA Trump Party and instantly start running ground game for extremist Republicans.
Yep.
Like, it was very clear that she was never really a Democrat. She never bought into the Democratic Party. So, and then you don't become an independent and say, I don't believe in either. You just go way over to the right and start saying, yeah, that guy over there, the rapist, the felon, that's my guy. Yeah. So who's paying you then?
That's a very good question. And this is Gabbard. And Gabbard, she has failed to call out Assad. In fact, she's defended Assad in some situations. I believe, like many, sadly, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, in the MAGA Republican Party, they don't want Ukraine to win. Trump wouldn't even answer that question on a debate stage, a presidential debate. Can you believe it? I mean, you have an evil, murderous dictator that invaded a country, and there's a portion of the Republicans who won't even say they want Ukraine to win because they don't. I mean, it's crazy. I wanted to ask you this because I think you have to deal with, probably multiply it by 10 of what I have to deal with, the trolls on social media, people that'll use the term soy boy and homophobic slurs and you're a pedophile.
Hourly, bro. Hourly.
Yeah. I get it all the time too. And I laugh at it and I ignore it, and I'm a much happier person because of it. But what do you make of it? Like, so many of these people, even people that call into this show every day, they're not able to have a conversation based on fact.
Right.
What do you make of this? I think 10 years ago, we were able to have these conversations with people. Now it's like so many people are so far gone.
First off, I think you're probably a lot happier than I am because I don't ignore as much as you do.
I don't always.
I know, but I bite a lot of low hanging fruit. No, that's a really good point, and I think I have personal conversations along those lines a lot because I still have Republicans in my life. They're just not Trumpers. I don't, like I said, we can debate politics all day. Like, we can debate policy, we can debate where our money should be going, we can debate, the deficit. I have no education. Let's debate those things, but let's have honest, good faith conversations about it. Let's not keep playing politics with it and get nothing done, which is what's been going on for at least 15 years. Yeah. And in terms of these conversations, again, as you said earlier in the program, Donald Trump is going to be president, whether we like it or not. We can keep holding on to these hopes that something is going to come out to change the election, to show that he didn't get the 77.8 million votes that he did. If that happens, great. But if I really don't think it's going to. So I think, as you said, we have to just accept the fact that this is going to be the guy for the next 4 years. And we're going to have to either be ready to work with him in some way, shape, or form to get something done for the American people, or we're going to have to be ready to fight to stop his agenda cold in its tracks. Yeah. But we need to grasp that reality, and we need to grasp it soon. These good faith conversations that everybody wants to get to, we're not going to get to them. We're not going to get back to them as we used to be able to until, as you said, we can find reasonable people willing to have good faith conversations using facts and data. That's really it. And the issue is when 77.8 million people voted with their emotions and misinformation instead of intelligence and knowledge.
Very well said. Very difficult to have those conversations with certain people that believe fires are started by Jewish space lasers. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ryan, you're the best, my friend. I love following you on social media. Whether you have a blue check mark or not, I don't care. You're a great follow. Keep up the great work, my friend. Always appreciate it. I got to do your podcast one of these days, my friend. But
you're always welcome on Hold the Mic, brother. Anytime.
Love to do it. Ryan Shedd, appreciate your time, my friend. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Same.
That's Ryan Shedd, everybody. Great follow on social media. He does a wonderful job in calling out the far right and hypocrisy. To an extent, he does what I do every day, and I really appreciate him, and I appreciate him taking the time to join us. So I want to start now by showing you a tweet, and we are going to put it up on the screen if you're watching And our producer, Numchuck, doing a great job, put that up. Donald Trump put this tweet out over the weekend on Truth Social. And I'm going to read it for you verbatim. He said, the fires are still raging in LA. The incompetent politicians have no idea how to put them out. Thousands of magnificent houses are gone and many more will soon be lost. There is death all over the place. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the history of our country. They just can't put out the fires. What's wrong with them? First of all, Donald Trump has no idea what he's talking about. And if you want to talk about a catastrophe, what about when you were president, when we were losing 5,000 people a day from COVID? He wasn't able to put out those fires, was he? He hasn't flown out there. Instead, he's hanging out on his fat ass at Mar-a-Lago and playing golf every day while people are dying. He's never to this day put out a statement saying, gosh, we're thinking about the families. We'll do everything we can to help. My thoughts are with you. Nothing like that. No empathy. His only goal is attacking the left, attacking Gavin Newsom, and attacking the mayor in LA. Now, if you want some facts, I'm happy to give them to you. But before I do that, I would like you to hear from Gavin Newsom himself. He did multiple interviews over the weekend. And I'll be very clear on this. It is very fair to criticize politicians. When the dust settles and it's all, said and done and the investigations are done with, I'm sure there are things that Gavin Newsom perhaps could have done, perhaps the mayor of LA could have done, that could have maybe helped prepare them for this horrible catastrophe. But let the investigation play out the way it has, and let's see where the investigation goes from here and there. What we do know is that some of the demand would have been met by a 117 million gallon reservoir complex in the Palisades. It sat at a use for repairs as the fires began. But officials have been estimating that even if it was online, and these are experts, by the way, apolitical people that have been interviewed, it would have maybe cut demand on the area's water system from 4 times to 3 times as high as normal. So it wouldn't have made a huge impact. So people that talk about this reservoir have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. You still would have ended up with serious drops in pressure, said former Department of Water and Power General Manager Adams, who told the LA Times. He said, could it have helped? Perhaps, but it would not have saved the day. And making matters worse were the high winds, upwards of 100 miles per hour. They couldn't get helicopters up there. They couldn't get planes up there. So Gavin Newsom was asked about the actual investigation. He was interviewed by CNN, and here's what Gavin Newsom had to say about the cause and effect.
We're also mindful of the ongoing investigation as to the cause of this. And part of that cause determination, no one has an understanding fully yet of what caused these fires beyond just hurricane force winds, unprecedented winds, in the driest conditions since the 1850s as it relates to this dry January here in Southern California. Combination of those two things, but was it a utility line? Who's responsible? Was it ours? All those things are being determined. And so we're just stress testing the worst case scenario. If it was a utility, what does that mean to the utility market? As it relates to insurance, what does it mean to private insurers? Who are the insurers? We've been making a lot of reforms in our insurance market, and we'll need to make subsequent reforms.
So I think everything Gavin Newsom said in that cut, I agree with. There's an investigation. Let's see how this happened, how we can prevent this from happening again. Very simply put, the Texas power grid failure was a huge catastrophe in Texas. How many Republicans were asking for Governor Abbott to step down? How many Republicans were asking for Donald Trump to step down during COVID? Now, J.D. Vance has been also on the prowl, going after Gavin Newsom. It's all his fault, says J.D. Vance. And Gavin Newsom was asked about that by the CNN reporter.
J.D. Vance was on television today talking about lack of competency on your part.
Okay.
What do you say to? You've heard this almost every single day.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him. Hurricanes that were attached to fires, unprecedented wind experiences, heroic firefighters from all across the United States. We got folks from Texas, we got folks from Wyoming that have been pounding on this, the best next-gen technology. We've got these fire hawks, guys with night vision goggles, pounding these fires 24/7. We've got thousands of National Guard men and women that have been on here. We pre-positioned 120 engines, helicopters, dozers, water tenders. We did that on Sunday, 2 days before this event. So with respect to the future vice president, I didn't hear his remarks, but I would invite him, as I did Donald Trump, to visit with the community, express empathy of the scale of this tragedy, and be here for the American people that happen to reside here in Southern California.
Yeah, you see, that's what so many people on the far right have been doing. Instead of helping those that are in need, they just go on X all day. The Elon Musks of the world, the Donald Trumps of the world, the J.D. Vances of the world. They'll do their interviews. They'll make their TV appearances. They'll go after Gavin Newsom. They'll blame Democrats and migrants for all their problems and DEI hires. But what are they actually doing to help people? Donald Trump is a man that has no empathy. To this day, he still hasn't said, geez, I really feel for the people that are impacted by this. Nothing. What are they doing to actually help people? And those, the Tim Pools of the world and those on social media, all they do all day long is just try to make money with clicks. They don't do anything to help the people, the good people in California that are struggling right now. As Americans, that should be our duty to do that. What are they doing to help people? There are celebrities, as some on the far right would call them, liberal Hollywood elites. Well, guess what? A lot of them are putting their money where their mouth is. They're donating tons of money. I look at Taylor Swift. She's donated $10 million. $10 million. Meanwhile, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Apple, Uber, they've all donated millions to Donald Trump. $0 to the victims. How much money? I know Elon Musk is out there and he I guess he's doing some work, try to help people, which is great. How much money has Elon Musk donated? He's donated hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump's campaign. I guarantee you he hasn't even donated a fraction of that to the fire victims out there. I see it from these people on social media all day. And then you have James Woods, the liar, crying on CNN. His home didn't burn down. I'm glad it didn't burn down. He's a liar. What are these people? That's what these MAGA Republicans do. During COVID, they were all infectious disease experts, right? They knew more about your health than your personal physician did. They were experts on infectious disease and vaccines, right? When it comes to transgenders, they're experts. They're experts when it comes to transgender surgery. They're all experts. Apparently, they're all firefighters too. And while these firefighters, who don't care whether their colleagues have an R or a D next to their name, are going into burning buildings and homes, and they're trying to save lives, and they're working 24, 25-hour shifts, and they're working their tails off, and they are heroes. You have idiots sitting on their couch eating potato chips, watching Newsmax, and tweeting about how Gavin Newsom should resign. Where were all of you during COVID? When Donald Trump literally had a playbook or a handbook on how to deal with a global pandemic that the Barack Obama administration left behind, and they didn't use it. Where were you when we were losing 3,000 to 5,000 people a day from COVID? When Donald Trump was president of the United States, when he was holding press conferences, they were supposed to be COVID press conferences, and he was talking about injecting yourself with disinfectant, and he was taking those press conferences and turning them into campaign rallies. Were you asking Donald Trump to resign? When our entire country was shut down, one of the richest countries in the world, and per capita we had more deaths than almost any other country in the world, were you asking Donald Trump to resign? Did you ask Greg Abbott to resign during the Texas power grid failure when Ted Cruz decided to go to Cancun? You guys voted in Ted Cruz again. The Texas was in a state of emergency. What would you be saying if Gavin Newsom decided to fly to Cancun today with his family? Would you reelect Gavin Newsom? No, Democrats wouldn't do that. They would call it despicable, and rightfully so. You guys, you Republicans out there, voted in for reelection Ted Cruz, the guy that flew to Cancun when his entire state was in emergency. How did Abbott do during that time, huh? Don't even get me started with the hurricanes and Ron DeSantis. COVID was an epic failure under Donald Trump. The response was a failure. I never blamed Donald Trump for COVID. I blamed him for the response. But all you guys want to come out of the MAGA woodworks, right? You want to come out of the MAGA woodworks right now and say, Gavin Newsom should resign. That makes you a hypocrite at a minimum. We don't even know the cause of this yet. We don't even know exactly how this happened. We understand the circumstances. Any meteorologist would tell you they only had 1 to 2 days. But you guys want to go after the mayor for taking a trip to another country? She had no idea this was going to happen. They had a 1-day notice at best with 100-mile-per-hour winds. I'm not making excuses. I want there to be an investigation. Criticism is fair. And let's see how we can make sure this doesn't happen again. This is horrible. My heart goes out to everybody that has been affected by this. But for you MAGA Republicans out there, what are you doing to help? What are you doing? Going on X and saying and calling Gavin Newsom Governor Newscum is not helping the situation any. Spreading misinformation, saying that the fire chief lost her job, that the mayor fired her, that was a lie. She publicly called out the fire department or the leaders in charge. They had a private conversation. She was not fired. But MAGA Republicans spread misinformation, and Elon Musk says, you're the media now, which is a joke, by the way. There's people on X that call themselves journalists. They can't even spell the word. They have no degrees. They don't know how to report facts. They don't have any original opinions of their own. They just look at other, the Benny Johnsons of the world and the Tim Pools of the world, and they just copy verbatim. They don't have an original thought. And I think we forget, some of us, there are people that don't have insurance that still have to pay their mortgage on a home that's been burnt down. Elderly people of their 70s, 80s, 90s, stories that I've heard. You think they want to rebuild? They've lost everything. They don't have any money. All they have are the clothes on their back, literally. And you guys out there want to attack Governor Newsom? You think now's the time to do that? It's funny, after a school shooting, we always hear from MAGA Republicans, now's not the time to talk about guns. But after a fire like this, a catastrophic fires across California, it's okay. People are displaced. People lose their lives. It's totally okay to make it political now. But after a school shooting, when we lose a bunch of 8 and 9-year-old kids, now's not the time to talk about gun control. Let me tell you something. When Democrats bring up gun control after a school shooting, they're not trying to score political points. They're trying to do everything they can to make sure that this stops happening in this country. Do you think the MAGA Republicans that are on X right now that are criticizing Gavin Newsom care about these fires? I guarantee you many of them don't. The only reason why they're talking about Gavin Newsom is because they want to score political points. Do you think Donald Trump cares about these people? If he did, he would have flown out there by now, don't you think? You guys criticized Joe Biden for not going to New Orleans after this terrorist attack, even though he went there days later after the investigation. The investigation's still going on, but we pretty much know what happened there. Joe Biden went there to pray with the families of the victims. But you guys were saying Joe Biden needs to fly out there right now. Where's Donald Trump? Oh, well, he's not the president of the United States yet. Oh, really? You want to use that as an excuse? He's going to be the president in a week, a little over a week. J.D. Vance hasn't flown out there. Gavin Newsom has given them the invitation to show them the devastation firsthand and have conversations. J.D. Vance hasn't gone out there. Donald Trump hasn't gone out there. Joe Biden's been out there for days. I find that very interesting. Very, very interesting. These GOP politicians, do they really care about these people in California? Do they? Do they really care about all these people that have been displaced? And J.D. Vance is under a little bit of hot water as well. So as you know, controversial, but the January 6th insurrectionists, some of whom beat police officers that day, I think we don't need to go back and talk about what took place on January 6th. I think most of you understand. But Donald Trump has made blatant statements that he wants to give pardons to all these people. And the question is, well, what about violent criminals? Now, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world and many on the far right believe everybody should get a pardon, which is absurd. But I want you to listen to what J.D. Vance said on television over the weekend. in regards to the violent criminals on January 6th. Have a listen to this.
President Trump says there's a process. Where is the line drawn on who will and wouldn't be considered for a pardon?
I think it's very simple. Look, if you protested peacefully on January the 6th and you've had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And there's a little bit of a gray area there, but we're very much committed to seeing the equal administration of law. And there are a lot of people, we think, in the wake of January the 6th who were prosecuted unfairly. We need to rectify that.
If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. Well, I would assume he means those that beat police officers, those that bear sprayed officers, right? I would assume that's what he means by that. There's a lot of people that are very, very upset at those comments that J.D. Vance made. I actually agree with J.D. Vance as far as the violence goes. Of course they shouldn't be pardoned. So I want you to listen to January 6th inmate Jake Long, who thought that he was going to be out of jail next week with a Trump pardon. And he's certainly not happy about J.D. Vance saying that Trump will only pardon non-violent January 6ers. Now, keep in mind that this guy is charged with assaulting police and says it's not what Donald Trump promised him while he was campaigning. Well, join the club because Donald Trump makes a lot of promises that he doesn't fulfill. But have a listen to January 6th inmate Jake Lang that actually assaulted police officers on January 6th.
Name one Jan 6er that was offered a fair trial in Washington, D.C., or that was not selectively prosecuted by the corrupt federal prosecutor's office, the George Soros prosecutors that let the Antifa and Black Lives Matter and Hamas rioters go free while they hunted us down and used the DOJ to destroy our lives. So if you're going to start nitpicking between which Jan 6ers can stay and which ones can go home on day one, January 20th, in 8 days, then we're going to need answers into which one of us had a fair due process of law. Because as of right now, all of us have been railroaded in a two-tiered justice system of persecution, a witch hunt. And I think the American people know that. And that's why they're calling out for every single Jan 6er to be pardoned on day one.
No, let me be very clear. Most reasonable people in this country with an IQ over 20 do not know that. They don't believe that. It's very simple. George Soros didn't force you to assault police officers. You had your due process. You were in court. Some of you pled guilty. Some of you had plea deals. You were caught on video physically assaulting police officers that day. You belong in jail far longer than you've been in thus far. One of the worst crimes you could commit is physically assaulting a police officer. And many people did that day. There are several hundred people that are still in jail. Now, if you want to have a conversation of people that, went into the Capitol, but they didn't commit any violent acts, no destruction of property. If any of those people are still behind bars, then maybe they have a case. But if you physically assaulted a police officer, I agree with J.D. Vance. Donald Trump will never say what J.D. Vance said. He will never say on the record, we will not pardon violent criminals on January 6th, because Donald Trump is a coward. Now, I think J.D. Vance is a coward as well, and I think he slipped up a little bit. But again, J.D. Vance sometimes tells the truth. For example, Donald Trump may be the next American Adolf Hitler. We remember when J.D. Vance said that? Sometimes J.D. Vance tells the truth. Occasionally, you have Republicans that tell the truth. Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, when they were running against Donald Trump, he's incompetent. He's unfit for office. He can't get anywhere near the White House. He's a habitual liar. Sometimes they tell the truth when it's convenient for them. But then, when it's not convenient for them, now maybe J.D. Vance will walk back his words. I don't know. What I do know is he did an interview over the weekend, about a week before Donald Trump gets into office again, and he said, if you committed a violent act, you shouldn't be pardoned. You will not be pardoned. A violent act is attacking police officers, assaulting police officers, destruction of property, you name it. So I would imagine that is what he is talking about. And there's probably a lot of people that would disagree with that, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, who probably thinks that Jewish space lasers are responsible for the wildfires in California. So here's what we are going to do. I want to open up the phone lines, and I want to hear from you. We had Ryan Shedd on the program, who has a great big following on social media, and he's awesome. The misinformation. Donald Trump on Truth Social putting out misinformation again about the fires, just like misinformation about New Orleans. They said it was a migrant. They said it was Joe Biden's open border policy. They lied. And then when they lie, they don't retract. And then they move on to the next horrible tragedy. After a mass shooting, Democrats usually are speaking out on gun control. What can we do to prevent these things from happening again? And you have so many Republicans out there that say now is not the time. But after a fire that is still going on, by the way, it's still going on. It's not over. It's literally still happening right now. People are losing their lives. People are losing their livelihoods. People are losing their homes. And all weekend since this started, they're attacking Gavin Newsom. They're attacking the mayor of LA. Misinformation. No understanding of how these fires started. None. Zero. But when Democrats bring up gun control after a mass shooting, oh, don't make it political. Now's not the time. But it's okay to make it political and score points. As the fires are still going on right now, as I speak right now on the air, there are firefighters and people that are risking their lives to help others. They are the true patriots and heroes, not the idiots that stormed the Capitol, the white supremacist terrorists that stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Those are not patriots, and they're certainly not hostages. The patriots and the heroes are the people right now that are risking their lives, law enforcement, firefighters, good Samaritans, people that are helping others. Those are the true heroes. Those are the patriots. And Donald Trump won't go down there. No, he won't go down there, but he'll travel to a football game and invite Daniel Penny to a football game. The difference between Democrats and Republicans today, it's a joke. So before we take a break, we run an independently owned radio show here. If you want to support what we do, check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, the website is pushingthelimits.live. We sell merchandise on there, PTL gear. There's also a donate button. You could donate 5, 10, 20 bucks a month, whatever you can afford. We appreciate. Please check it out at pushingthelimits.live. And this segment brought to you by the official gaming bar of the Pushing the Limits radio show. Of course, I'm talking about Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones, where you can win up to $500 in free slot play during the Pass the Puck contest during Vegas Golden Knights games. Please check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill. Great food, great atmosphere. I actually might be going over there for lunch today, believe it or not. The food there is incredible. Tell them I sent you. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. So we are going to be taking some phone calls next. What do you make about the misinformation? What do you make about Republicans lying, spreading misinformation about these fires? What do you make about James Woods crying on CNN about how he might need a new home when his home is still intact? What do you make of these people blaming Gavin Newsom and Democrats for all of their problems, blaming migrants for all of their problems? What do you make of that? 702-221-7283. Again, the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Whether you're a Donald Trump supporter or not, maybe you think that the criticism on Gavin Newsom is warranted. 702-221-7283. We'll take your calls. We'll be back in 90 seconds. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. We just had Ryan Shedd on the show, fantastic follow on social media, just the right-wing hypocrisy. And you look at the Texas power grid, nobody was calling on Abbott to resign. The hurricanes, some would say Ron DeSantis failed in a lot of categories with hurricane relief and help there. Donald Trump during COVID. You know, how many MAGA Republicans were calling on Donald Trump to resign during COVID when we were losing 5,000 people a day? But now all of a sudden, oh yeah, Gavin Newsom should resign. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Joe Biden should be there. Well, he was there. Where's Donald Trump? Where's J.D. Vance? Number to call, 702-221-7283. All right, here we go. Let's start off with these phone calls, the most interactive show across the valley. And we're going to start off with Steve. Steve, what's going on?
Hello, Brian. I'm a fourth-time caller. Thanks for having me on.
Sure.
So a couple things. First, I love the Darlene who calls in, the MAGA destroyer.
Yeah.
I would love if she was your co-host someday.
she's a firecracker.
She's hilarious.
She's a firecracker.
And Paul, he's one of my favorite callers too. But
he's great. Yep.
If Darlene could ever debate that MAGA Patrick, that would be great.
We'll see if Patrick calls in today, because apparently he's an expert when it comes to firefighters and how to put out fires as well. Yeah.
You know, I hate to say bad things about people, but he's an idiot.
Well, he is.
Okay. The with what Donald Trump is doing with pointing fingers about this California wildfire. I don't know a lot about it. I'm in the Midwest, but I think it's sick to use that as an opportunity, just like he did with the hurricane back in Florida when it happened. He wanted to point the finger. He didn't care about the victims or anything that happened. And I just think, I'll make this quick. We are, this is the first time in my lifetime. I'm really, like in 2016, I didn't take Trump seriously. I never thought he'd win. And now what's so scary is that half the nation almost, or a little over, voted this sick creep in office. And I just think these next 4 years will be long, and that's all I have to say. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Steve, for the phone call. I'll be honest with you. I think the only fire that Donald Trump has been fighting, that he's been trying to put out for decades, is his herpes, allegedly. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Alex. Alex is next. What's up, Alex?
Hey, Brian. How you doing today?
Hey, good, man. What's on your mind today?
So I'm really bothered by two things regarding the California wildfire. The misinformation. It's troubling, and all it does is throw us into further chaos when they spread misinformation. Like, for example, people saying that they stopped the fire trucks on their way from Oregon to California for emissions tests.
That was a lie.
Happen.
That was a lie. Yep.
Yeah. And all it does, it pushes further mistrust based on nothing. And all it does is it hurts people even further about this, because now they believe no one's coming to save us when that's not true. And they don't realize how damning good this is. And what's worse is there are so many people on social media that are Trump supporters that spread this information, and no one holds them to account.
So I agree. I agree with everything you just said. And what's unfortunate is, what are these people that are spreading this stuff? What are they doing to help people? Like, are they donating money? Are they active? Are they going out there to California to assist and help people with food and water and housing? They're not doing anything. Let me be very clear. Most of these people are like the Candace Owens of the world. All they care about is clicks, and all they care about is money, because clicks equal money. It doesn't matter whether it's misinformation or not. As long as they get engagement, that's all they care about. They care more about their own engagement and making money than they actually do about helping people and, caring about people and having empathy for people. Make no mistake about it. People could say what they want about Gavin Newsom, but right now, he's doing everything he possibly can. And I know he is. And so are these firefighters. They're doing everything they possibly can to help people. Some people might say that's not enough. Okay, but what are you doing to help? What are the people that are attacking Gavin Newsom? What are you doing to help?
Yeah, and the other thing that really bothers me, and I don't know if you saw this, but former Congressman Matt Gaetz went on X. Somebody shared that there was a fire tornado that was ripping through Los Angeles, and his response was, "What are its pronouns?"
Ugh.
That was disgusting. And the thing is, people liked it.
And
1.5 thousand people. Yep.
Let me be very clear on this. That is the guy of all the people that Donald Trump could have chosen, goes to Donald Trump's judgment, that's the guy he wanted to be the attorney general. DUI, Venmo, Matt Gaetz, and during a catastrophe like that, that's still going on, he makes a joke about a tornado. But my friend, that's who Matt Gaetz is, and that's who so many in the MAGA Republican Party are today. Make no mistake about it. If Matt Gaetz runs for office, maybe governor of Florida, there are so many moron MAGA Republicans out there that if Matt Gaetz ran against a very capable and decent human being, that's a Democrat, they would vote for Matt Gaetz just because he has an R next to his name. I mean, it's insane. 702-221-7283. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Matt. Matt is next. What's up, Matt?
Hey, Brian. Yeah, I think people are always looking for a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And I think Gavin Newsom just happens to be the one that's there.
Let me ask you, Matt. Yeah, in a lot of situations, a lot of people want a scapegoat, but from the MAGA right, it was Dr. Anthony Fauci during COVID. Notice how they didn't want to put any criticism on Donald Trump if you were a MAGA Republican on the response. And I hear you. You're right. You always want a scapegoat. But my opinion is it's fair to criticize politicians. It's fair to criticize Gavin Newsom. It's going to be fair to criticize the mayor of L.A. But wait until the investigation is over with and to get more details. These people think they're all experts when it comes to fires and reservoirs and water. And, they're all experts. And that's what just drives me nuts.
I know, Brian. And, I'm from Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember during the George Floyd murder situation,
the
riots in Minneapolis, how Tim Walz got blamed for Tim Walz burned down Minneapolis.
Yeah, and by the way, Donald Trump is the guy on the phone who praised Tim Walz for his response, by the way. We played that on this show. It's a joke.
I remember that.
It's a joke. And
it is.
And I use the term hypocrite all the time when it comes to these MAGA Republicans. I mentioned the Texas power grid failure, which was absolutely partially responsible was Governor Greg Abbott. And then people like Ted Cruz fly to Cancun when they're in the state of emergency. What do you think? Let me ask you, what do you think Democrats would be doing if somebody like a Gavin Newsom or a Democrat, a prominent Democrat, flew out vacation with their family during these fires? I mean, they would, what do you think Republicans would say, I should say? If
it would be a 4-alarm fire.
Right. And they forget about these hurricanes and Ron DeSantis and what took place in Florida. Some would say the response was an F-, but they weren't calling on Ron DeSantis to resign. They weren't calling on Greg Abbott to resign. They certainly weren't calling on Donald Trump to resign during COVID.
Hypocrites on steroids.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is probably taking more steroids than anybody else, but I agree with you on that one. What was she called? Butch Bod? Yeah. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Carrie. You want to go to Carrie next? Let's go to Carrie. Carrie, thanks for calling in.
Hi, Brian. I'm about to reveal my age here because I was part of activities, school activities during the very first Earth Day. And I was so fascinated by it that I kind of carried that all through my adult life. And I just wanted to let you know, just for some context here, I have never gone to college. I've taken a couple of classes here and there on various subjects and stuff. But I think what happens here with a lot of this misinformation is people don't bother to read. They don't bother to really look up reliable sources. And so they just follow along with what the rest of the crowd is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how this stuff ends up where it is. It's just absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And, pick up a book and read.
Yeah.
Great author right now, John Villante, wrote the book Fire Weather, which is an incredible book. Read that. It will tell you about why some of these things happen.
Yeah.
You don't have to be, educate yourself, for God's sake. It's a lifetime thing.
But that's the problem, because a lot of these
people are just.
You're right. A lot of these people.
Ahead, Brian,
sorry to interrupt you. A lot of these people say, "I do my own research," when in reality they don't do much of any research at all, and the information they're getting are from people that are not experts. A lot of these people, and I've had to work with some of these morons. A lot of these people don't have an original thought of their own. They go on X and they listen to social media right-wing buffoon influencers that put out fake, false information, and then they just spread it. Whether it's true or not, they don't care. But sadly, there's a lot of people that are brainwashed into believing a lot of these people, and they spread the misinformation. It could be the fire trucks in Oregon. It could be the fire chief fired when she wasn't. They all ran out of water. It's endless. And the sad part about it is it takes away from what's really going on and what people really can be doing to help people in need. That's the problem.
I totally agree with you on that, Brian.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, my dear. I do appreciate you calling in, and thank you so much for listening in and tuning in. Call back anytime. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Big Papa. Big Papa, what's going on, man?
Hi, Brian. So I just want to do a little compare and contrast with you. I'm sick of these January 6ers trying to compare their crimes to Black Lives Matter protests. Black Lives Matter, they were protesting for Black people to have basic human rights to be able to walk down the street and not get a bullet in you. January 6ers, you all went to the Capitol and you showed your butt. You brought weapons, you brought flagpoles, you brought all of that stuff. In my opinion, you deserve any crime, and you deserve to get the book thrown at you. But do not compare Black Lives Matter protests.
Well, you know why they do that, right? You know why they do that. First of all, one has nothing to do with the other, and the reason why she's bringing this up is because I played some J.D. Vance audio over the weekend where J.D. Vance said that some of the violent criminals will not be pardoned. And there are some people that are not very happy with that. There is no comparison between Black Lives Matter protests and January 6th, and I think you'll agree with me on this. Black Lives Matter, there were tens of millions of people that were protesting. Overwhelming majority of them were not violent criminals. They wanted equality. By the way, I was one of them. There were agitators. Some of them were white Republicans, believe it or not, that were agitators. And there were a small percentage of people that did some very bad things, and nobody would ever condone the violence. But the reason why the majority of those people were there was for something good, which was equality. All the people were there I'm not even talking about the people that committed crimes. Everybody that was there on January 6th, or maybe 99% of them, were there because they believed the election was stolen based on a lie. They're dopes. Everybody that was there, for the most part, morons. And a small percentage of those people, I say small percentage because, to be fair, there were probably a couple 100,000 people there, and there were a couple thousand people that committed some crimes that day. But there is a difference between wanting equality for the country, wanting people to be treated as equals regardless of skin color when it comes to law enforcement, and people that showed up in Washington, D.C., based on a lie, trying to overthrow a free and fair election. There is no comparison. It doesn't mean we should ever condone violence, and I know you're not, at either situation. But one group of people are so stupid, they thought the election was stolen, which it wasn't. They tried to overthrow a free and fair election. And you had another group, tens of millions, that just wanted equality. And they saw what happened to George Floyd, regardless of what George Floyd was or what he did in his life, is irrelevant. If George Floyd was white, that wouldn't have happened. Period. Period. If Ahmaud Arbery was white, that wouldn't have happened. And I can go along the list. Okay, race plays a role, sadly, sometimes with the way people are treated, not just with law enforcement, but as a whole in society, which is why I believe systemic racism exists. And the people that are saying systemic racism doesn't exist are usually people that are called white supremacists.
Preach. Thank you, Ryan.
You got it. Thank you so much for the phone call. Appreciate you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. We're going to Shelley next. Hey, Shelley.
Hey, Brian. I totally agree with your last caller.
Yeah.
There is absolutely zero comparison between what happened on January 6th and the Black Lives Matter protests.
Yep.
Absolutely no comparison.
But that's what they do. That's what they do.
Know.
Anytime you bring up gun violence after a school shooting or whatever the shooting is where innocent people die, what do they bring up? Oh, what about the black-on-black crime in Chicago? These people are so stupid. And I tell them, I say, I don't care what the color of your skin is. If you're an innocent person, whether it's gang violence or whether it's an 8-year-old, God forbid, shot in a school, innocent people dying are innocent people dying. It shouldn't change the conversation.
And another thing, Trump will, or any MAGA Republicans, will never, ever, ever help people in California or in any other situation.
You're right.
None.
You're right.
They will not.
And they want to blame the liberal Hollywood elitist. Well, I can give you a laundry list of names of people like Angelina Jolie and others that have not only, and I looked up Taylor Swift, she donated $10 million, okay?
Bless her heart.
Yeah. How much money has Elon Musk donated? That's scum.
Probably zero.
Yeah. How much money has he donated? How much money has James Woods donated? We know that he lied on CNN.
God, I can't believe he did not lose his house.
Yeah, he lied on CNN, crying on CNN. How much money has he donated, huh? Or Kevin Sorbo, or these right-wingers all day. All day they sit on their couch and they just tweet out attacking Governor Newsom, calling him names, attacking the mayor, calling out DEI hires as if black people are responsible for this.
Well, let me ask you this, Brian. What was he on there crying about if he didn't lose his house?
That's a really, really good question. Now, I'd like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm not giving James Woods the benefit of the doubt. Some people might argue, well, he didn't know if he was going to lose his house. Okay, then maybe you should have clarified and said that, hey, I don't know if my house is still there or not. We're praying and we're hoping. Okay, great. But he made it sound like, he
lost his house.
Because he's a lying scumbag. That's why. And I called him that on social media yesterday, and then he blocked me. He's a lying scumbag is what he is. James Woods is
I just wish that they would get, I don't know how they bend and twist themselves into knots and don't see Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans for what they are, because I'm telling you right now, if the Republicans would stick together in Congress, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
I agree completely, 100%, my dear, and I really do.
I mean, even now.
Yeah, you're right.
We wouldn't.
I agree, and I appreciate you, my dear. Thank you so much for calling in. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Teresa. Teresa is next up on PTL. Hi, Teresa.
Hi, Brian. It's Teresa. I'm a first-time caller, but I've been listening for months now.
Oh, thank you.
And I want to talk about the woman who was arrested for nearly setting a fire. And she was from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But I don't know if she resides in California or if she went to California to do this.
Well, here's the thing. I'm unfamiliar with the story that you're speaking of, but I will say this. It's a possibility, no doubt, that arson may have played a role in some of these fires, but not every single one of them, right? If you are, I think they've made, we know there's a lot of looters out there, and that's despicable, right? If you're looting during this time of crisis, if you're looting, I mean, throw the book at you, right? And I think they've arrested like dozens of people already. So 32, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And as far as arson goes, I know there's a video circulating online of, again, MAGA Republicans wanting to emphasize that it's an illegal. It's an illegal. It turned out that law enforcement did not file charges on this guy because they said there was no evidence that he was trying to start a fire. But Republicans, why is it that they salivate over attacking migrants? Why is it that they seem to enjoy going after brown people? I'm wondering why that is.
I have no idea. I just know that I found it very, very peculiar that this woman was out there setting fires.
Yeah.
Now, it's possible she could be a pyromaniac, and seeing these fires going on, that something triggered her. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
what do you think? What do you think America would say if Joe Biden came out today? If it so happened that some of these looters voted for Joe Biden, if Joe Biden pardoned these people would lose their minds, and rightfully so. That's what Donald Trump is going to be doing to the January 6ers. I mean, it's so absurd. Thank you for the call, my dear. Call back anytime. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Who are we going to next here? Let's go to Jesse. Jesse, what's going on?
Hey, Brian, how you doing, man? Big shout out from Ohio. We love you out here.
Thank you.
I wanted to give people kind of a little bit of a comparison because politicians always try to find things to take advantage of, like crises and stuff. And something that I keep remembering, and I've had a couple people kind of compare it, like, oh, well, when Hurricane Katrina happened, everybody was mad at George W. Bush, and I try to tell people that people were criticizing the way the cleanup happened, the aftermath of it.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't criticizing him as it was happening, because people keep forgetting that they haven't put these fires out. They're still killing people. They're still burning people's houses down.
Yeah.
And it just shows people there's just no class with any of these MAGA people. The level that they'll drop to. I got family that lives out in Riverside and a couple people close to LA County, and they see it every day, and they're breathing this crap in.
Oh boy!
The only thing worse than having to deal with all that crap is then going home and hearing this stupid crap on the internet.
You are
about
so right.
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
It's disgusting, and these people need to. It makes me so angry because they're not seeing the suffering that's happening. That has nothing to do with who you vote for or what you believe. It's got everything to do with the fact that, hey, look, I might be a MAGA guy, but guess what? I'm an American first, and I want to help people. Not I want to sit out there on my ass on Twitter, stuffing my face. Well, Gavin Newsom, he did this. I mean, it's disgusting.
So, Jesse, I agree with everything
sorry.
No, you're all right. I agree with everything you just said. Jesse, what type of person does it take immediately? I'm talking like not even minutes, but seconds after a horrible tragedy. We could be talking about New Orleans. We could be talking about the Tesla explosion in Las Vegas or the wildfires. What type of person responds immediately by attacking one side of the aisle? Normal people, regardless of where a horrible tragic event happens and a loss of life, normal people immediately will say, oh my God, I feel for the families. What can we do to help? This is horrible. That's what a normal person, that's how a normal person reacts. But so many of these MAGA Republicans, their first reaction is not to think about the victims and their families. It's to attack Gavin Newsom, to say that it was a migrant and open border policies for the terrorist attack in New Orleans, right? To say that it was a radical leftist that blew himself up in a Tesla. You look it up. I mean, it's Donald Trump and his MAGA clan members. Donald Trump to this day has still not talked about the victims. I mean, it's
an apt comparison. When people compare Trump, I've never compared him to Hitler directly. But if you look at the way that the Nazis did propaganda and the age-old philosophy of the bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. It doesn't matter. It's way harder. It's way harder to correct the lie than to say it. It takes a lot longer to prove that lie is false. And they know that. And it has a lot to do with algorithm and how many clicks can I get. And look, I don't generally go after people for how they make their money, but if you're doing this to make money, you're lower than a snake's ball bag, man.
Well, think about it.
What's wrong with people?
Think about it.
Man. Have some class. Have some humility.
You're right. Great call, my friend. Fantastic call. Think about all the people on X that are making money off this tragedy. Think about the people that are starting up fake GoFundMe pages. Think about the people, whether they're looters, but I'm specifically the MAGA Republicans that are using this to score political points and make money on social media. You're absolutely right, my friend. Thank you for the call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the program. Why don't we go to David next? Hi, David. Who are we going to? Oh, we're going to Kate. Oh, okay. So we have a caller calling in from Southern California. So yeah, that's why we want to go to Kate. Hi, Kate. How are you doing out there? Kate, are you with us?
Yes.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go right ahead, Kate.
Okay. I live about an hour south of the fires. We have so many people that have come into the Laguna Beach, South Laguna area, Aliso Viejo, to take in people who literally only have the clothes on their back.
Wow.
I want to make a point. Some years ago, we had the perfect storm of dry weather conditions, and over 500 houses burned in 12 hours. It was a nightmare. Everyone had to flee. I was helping friends hose down houses. An investigation was done, and they found the arsonist who set those fires.
Yeah.
There are so many MAGA haters and Trump supporters, even here in Southern California. They are terrorists. Many have been arrested for other crimes. I'm sure that this was, now it doesn't have to be every fire that was set, but what's ironic to me is 3 all started at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
I believe it probably was arson, and it is not under control, which is unbelievable. And it's a tragedy, and it's all about hatred. And look at Trump. He hates California. So do all the MAGAs, because they just hate people that are inclusive, that are more liberal-minded. And I don't think that should be ruled out. And I have a funny feeling that this is going to come to be true, that a number of those incidents were orchestrated.
Well, here's what I'll say to that. I have no idea who the arsons are, if it was arson. It's very possible that it was. We want the investigation to be thorough. If it was arson, find the people that are responsible. And if it turns out that they're MAGA supporters, okay, great. Then show it, whatever the case may be. But sadly, and I think you'll agree with me on this one, for the people that lost their lives, the grieving families and loved ones, and those that have lost their homes, that have nothing, I guarantee you they don't care whether there's an R or a D next to somebody's name. Just like the people in New Orleans. They don't care whether it wasn't a migrant, but they don't care whether it was or it wasn't. They lost loved ones. It's a horrible tragedy.
And the firemen,
right.
That's even more horrific to me.
I agree. And after these tragedies, it appears to me that the far right are the group of people that try to make it political. After a school shooting, they claim that Democrats try to make it political. No, they don't. They talk about policy, right? Now, if Donald Trump, for example, let me give you an example. If Donald Trump was strictly talking about policies and ways to help this not happen again without attacking, which he's not capable of doing, then I think more people would be prone to listen to that. If MAGA Republicans were like, hey, listen, this is what we need to do to make sure that, 20% of these hydrants aren't dry. Let's try to train some laws. Let's try to do this, do that. Okay, you're talking about policy. I don't think Democrats would say, no, it's not the time. No, but that's not what they're doing. They're just attacking. Newsom needs to resign. The mayor needs to resign. But they're not getting, they're not getting into strictly policy. They'll make generalized statements that are not true. Every county ran out of water, the reservoir, this and that. What Democrats do after...
That's all propaganda.
Right.
The reservoirs are full.
Yeah.
It was just that so many fires went off simultaneously, which in my opinion, as both a home builder and someone who's very involved in the environment in Southern California. I moved here from New York, but I've been very involved my entire adult life since I moved here. It wasn't that the reservoirs were dry. It's that so many fires started simultaneously on a day that had 80 to 100 mile an hour winds.
I agree.
There was no possible way to refill the chargers to get the water that we have there.
Right, I agree. You're right. You're 100% correct. And the former Department of Water and Power General Manager, Mr. Adams, told the LA Times that you still would have ended up with serious drops in pressure, even if that reservoir in the Palisades was full, and that it may have helped a little bit, but it would not have saved the day. That's somebody that's dedicated his life, decades, to this sort of stuff. He's a professional, apolitical. Thank you for the call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the program. Let's go to David. David is next. Hi, David.
Hey, Brian. You said in this on this episode today, or at least you kind of implied it, that you said Democrats, more or less would hold Gavin Newsom's feet to the fire if he was going on vacation or something. He wasn't taking the problem seriously. And I mean, the reason I don't think Democrats would actually hold his feet to the fire is because, he's been effectively running that state into the ground for the last several years. I've been to that state multiple times, and I've seen the homelessness, I've seen the trash, and I've seen just how disgusting and brutal that state can be. So to think that, and Democrats never call him out on that, at least no big Democrats that I hear about. So he's been running that state into the ground, not having anything to do with these
How
fires.
long has he been governor? How long has he been governor for?
Just a handful of years. He hasn't
handful
really been
of years.
there that
So
long.
5 years ago, they didn't have a homeless problem?
Oh, they did, but it's got
they
worse.
did.
I mean, it's increased 8% since 2022.
Right, and
Every
why do
year
you
it's getting worse.
and why do you think it got worse 2022? You think that was Gavin Newsom policy, or was that COVID? You think COVID might add
be COVID or
possibly? Okay, so
sorry?
let's start over here. Okay, so possibly COVID. Okay, so if it's possibly COVID, how did you think the response to COVID was by Donald Trump?
See, you're trying to shift the conversation.
No, I'm not trying to. No, sir.
It's not,
sir.
Yes, you are.
Sir, I'm not trying to shift anything. You said Gavin Newsom was responsible for the horrible homeless in California. I asked you how long Gavin Newsom is. Hold on. Hold on.
I said,
you're putting a lot of blame on the homelessness, David. Let's have this conversation. And I said to you,
the number one
okay. And I
state
said,
in the country. For
I
homeless.
understand. I understand. It's also the biggest state, okay, per capita. But let's talk about this. I asked you how long he's been in there. You said yes, several years. Okay. And you admitted to me that they've always had a homeless problem there. And then in 2022, 2000, and there's cause and effect. What policy? And you admitted that COVID had a lot to do with it, which was, by the way, not Gavin Newsom's fault. In fact, I would say the opposite. I thought Gavin Newsom did a really good job during COVID, by the way. I'm sure you would probably disagree with that because you didn't want businesses closed down, but a lot of lives were saved in California. So if COVID was a big problem and why the homelessness is there now, name me some policies that Gavin Newsom implemented when he became governor to now that you think led to the homeless problem.
I'm not saying he specifically implemented problems, but he's the one in charge, and he has yet to fully take
and you can't come up and you can't come up with one specific policy. And I can name you some policies on the other side. He took all motels that were being unused in facilities throughout the state and turned them into places where homeless people could get off the streets, get into a motel and get a job. And it's worked, and it's also saved lives. They've also been working endlessly.
Then why is the homeless population increasing every single year?
I just told you, I gave you cause and effect. There's a lot of reasons for that. One of the major reasons being COVID, and you can't name me one. See, this is David, I like it when you call into this show, and you seem like a really nice guy. But
well, I'm glad you remember me.
Well, I do, because I like these conversations I have with you, and you're always respectful to me, and I will always be respectful to you. With that being said, when you call in and you want to blame Gavin Newsom for something, then come up with a specific policy. Let me give you an example of what I am talking about, okay? The economy. Biggest tax breaks, top 1%. That hurts the economy. When Donald Trump, during COVID, didn't really talk about the vaccines very much. We had Operation Warp Speed. Didn't talk about the vaccines, didn't really promote the vaccines at all. When he turned his coronavirus press conferences into campaign rallies and said 15 cases down to 0, it's going to be gone by Easter, that hurt the country. It's why part of the reason why the COVID response here was so awful. So I can come up with policies that have worked under the Joe Biden administration. I'm sure there are some policies that worked under the Trump administration. But if you're going to criticize Gavin Newsom, give me some policies that you think led to the homeless problem in California. If not, then we need to move on to something else because you haven't given me any specifics. You're throwing stuff at a wall and hoping that it sticks. Gavin Newsom.
No. I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, you're asking me you're saying what policies have caused the homelessness problem.
Or help led to it. Give me something that he's done.
Well, here's an example. It's the fact that they're just so lax on the rampant amount of drug abuse that's going on over there, and all these people are getting brutalized by all these drugs in the state. They don't even entertain the thought of using any policy or implementing a policy because it's not necessarily a big priority to them. They just don't care.
First of all, I disagree with you. He's put policies in place, implementing policies in place when it comes to drug use. But with that being said, again, Skid Row has been there for decades. This isn't. I don't understand when you say, it's the same argument that I hear with immigration.
Here's why. Because that state is extremely far left. Mind you, it seems like it's actually turning red because people
really. So you think there's now a big drug problem in
2020?
Is Florida left? Is Florida a big left state? You don't think they don't have?
It's kind of red. It's mostly red now.
Okay. Florida is a Republican state. They have huge drug issues in Florida, and they've had drug issues in Florida for decades. So please, sir, don't tell me this is a Democrat problem or liberal policies. It's not. It's an American problem. We've had issues with drugs. I look at drugs like I look at immigration. You want to nitpick and say, well, this state is under a Democrat. Listen, the entire country has issues when it comes to substance abuse, when it comes to gun violence, when it comes to the border. We've had these issues for decades. And if you're just going to blame one side of the aisle or homelessness, it's all Gavin Newsom in the state of California. This is why we don't get anywhere as a country.
Again, I'm not saying it's all Gavin Newsom, but I'm saying he simply adds fuel to the fire.
You haven't blamed one Republican for any of the issues you've talked about in this conversation.
I don't see any Republicans that have that is reaching that magnitude of problems in their state.
Really, you don't think Florida has magnitude of problems when it comes to substance abuse issues and drugs? Is that what you're claiming?
Not as bad.
Who's the governor of Florida? Per capita? California has more people. Who's the governor of Florida? I forgot. I don't know. Is that a Republican? Thank you. I believe he's a Republican. Last I checked, Texas, huge problems when it comes to homelessness and when it comes to issues when it comes to drugs. Who's the governor of Texas? I forgot.
Is it still Abbott? I don't
Remind me. Yes, correct, sir. It is still Abbott. He happens to be a Republican. We can go back and forth on this. The problem that I have is, if you're going to tell me that you think Newsom has made the homeless problem worse, then you have to give me actual policies that he has put in place, things he changed when he was governor that you think made the problem worse. Now, I can give you some issues or some policies that I think has improved, since putting in the implementation of getting homeless people off the streets, allocating funds, putting people in motels, rooms that were not used, and putting them to use. Thousands and thousands of people are off the streets. Is it enough? No. More needs to be done, not just in California, across the country.
It's not even close to enough. It's a Band-Aid on a massive open wound. I mean, all those things you said are true, but I mean, California is just becoming more expensive, and it's virtually impossible for people to live there, to the point where so many people, there's like an exodus in that state every single year because so many people are just tired of living there because the state it's become untenable for so many people. I mean, owning a home is simply out of the question in that state. Forget about the homeless problem. And I only mention homeless problem because that's one of a million problems in California. It's not just bad, but it's unbelievably bad to the point where thousands of people every year leave.
Okay, and how is that Gavin Newsom's fault? You want to blame Democrats?
I'm not saying he specifically walked in and waved the magic wand and boom, he made all these problems and it's his fault.
He didn't.
But he has yet to make anything better. I mean, when you mentioned before he allocated funds, that state is insanely broke to the tune of billions of dollars.
So you care about people being able to buy homes at an affordable rate. You care about people not being taxed up the yin-yang. Is that a fair characterization of there's a reason why I'm asking. You care about that, right? You want hardworking Americans. Okay, great. Then why didn't you vote for Kamala Harris, who wanted to do a 25% down payment on a home for people that are struggling to live paycheck for paycheck? Why didn't you vote for Kamala Harris, who does not, hold on. I'm going to tell you who's going to pay for it. That was my next point. Donald Trump gave the biggest tax breaks to the top 1% in this country and his billionaire friends. Kamala Harris wanted to lower the tax bracket to 27% for income families that are making under $400,000 total income. Donald Trump is going to do the opposite, just like he did in his first administration. So I believe you, sir, David, when you say you think it's terrible that people can't afford a home, that people are losing homes. I'm with you 100% on that. Then why would you vote against your interest and vote for a guy by the name of Donald J. Trump, who does not want to give tax breaks to those that are struggling, who does not want to give a $25,000 down payment to people that are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck? Why do people like you vote against your own interests?
So when you're saying that she was going to tax other people, so basically other people are
the
paying
top
for
1%.
Is what you're saying.
No, that's not how it works. She doesn't want to give.
If they're being taxed,
I'm going to explain it.
They have to come with that money
I'm
somewhere.
Explaining it to you. She doesn't want to give the biggest tax breaks in decades to billionaires and CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. Most Democrats agree with Kamala Harris that they want the rich to pay their fair share. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll tell you why. If you're making $25,000 a year, you shouldn't be paying the same percentage on taxes as somebody like an Elon Musk. But MAGA Republicans and the people, with all due respect, that you voted for, Donald Trump, do not want to change their tax bracket percentage-wise to the billionaires. You see, if billionaires paid a higher percentage on their taxes and those living paycheck to paycheck got a break on their taxes, which is exactly what Kamala Harris wanted to do, then the people that you say you're...
those are other people paying for my house. They're paying a higher percentage. The government takes that money, and then then they put $25,000 of it towards a house that I buy. How is that not taken from person A to pay for person B?
Because it's a loan, and over time you would have to pay it back. And you know why they'd be able to pay it back? Because Kamala Harris, wait for it, wanted to lower their taxes. It was in her plan that so many people, maybe people like you, said you didn't know what her plan was. She talked about it every day. She wanted to make...
No, she didn't. She waited for weeks to finally unveil this plan that she, by the way,
she
never
didn't. You're
brought
wrong.
up during her entire vice presidency. All of a sudden, she came up with this plan.
Because she doesn't make policy as the vice president. Joe Biden makes policy. It's the job of the vice president to support the president. What the hell are you talking about? She doesn't implement policy. Joe Biden does. And when she ran for office for months, and I know this because I went to several of her rallies, in every single one of the rallies that I went to, she talked about that $25,000 down payment. She talked about how it was going to be paid, how it was going to be paid off. And when you give people that are struggling a lower percentage that they have to pay on their taxes, it means it gives them more money to get out there and spend. It allows them to save money. And when you tax and give tax breaks to the top 1%, which is what Donald Trump clearly did when he was in office, and he's going to do it again, the country suffers, and his billionaire friends, like the ones like Elon Musk, who donate hundreds of millions of dollars to his campaign, are the ones that are going to be making not billions, but trillions.
When you subsidize something, you simply, if houses... If everybody got a $25,000 subsidy towards a house, what do you think is going to happen to the already expensive housing market? They're going to say, hey, I can raise it by $25,000 because it's being subsidized by the government. That's how subsidies work. If the government said, hey, we're going to pay 50% of the bill for your house if you want to buy a house, what are mortgages companies going to do? They're going to just jack up the price of the house because they know the government's going to cover half of it.
So you don't think it's a good idea to help people buy homes and give them a $25,000 down payment, which eventually they would pay back. And the reason why you're against it is because you think they're going to raise the price of the homes. There are a lot of homes in this country, you just said it yourself, that are vacant and people can't afford to buy these homes. All I'm simply telling you, sir, is you're talking, and I believe you when you say you care about the people of California. You don't want people, to have to live paycheck to paycheck that can't afford homes. And I'm wondering, what is Donald Trump, the man who you voted for, I would assume, what is Donald Trump going to do policy-wise to help those in this country that are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck? What policies did he implement in 4 years, and what policies will he implement in the next 4 years that will help struggling families? Because I could give you a laundry list of the things that Joe Biden has done. What is Donald Trump going to do that you think is going to help struggling families living paycheck to paycheck buy homes? Because at least Kamala Harris had some, you might disagree with her policies, but she had them. What is Donald Trump going to do? What have you heard him say that he's going to do?
Well, depending on how you feel about tariffs, he's made a big case for tariffing other countries, and
hold on,
that money.
Hold on. So you think 25% tariffs is going to help? It's going to make it worse. You think 25?
No, not necessarily.
You think
it depends on how you look at it.
You think the tariffs at 25% are going to help this economy? You really believe that?
No, it's a negotiating platform. It's basically telling countries, hey, you can't keep doing X, Y, and Z. If you're going to like China, for example, they dump all this cheap labor into our country, and they make it extremely hard for.
Okay, hold on, David. We're getting into the weeds here. We're getting into the weeds here.
Well, you asked me if a policy.
Understood. You think that the 25% tariffs is a good policy to, number one, help this country, help the economy, and help struggling families that are living paycheck to paycheck buy homes. And you think that's a better policy than Kamala Harris would have put a $25,000 down payment on those that are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck? You're telling me that you think the tariffs, 25%, are a better policy when it comes to the economy in this country. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I'm not saying those tariffs are guaranteed to work. You're kind of dealing in absolutes where I'm saying, will the tariffs absolutely work. I'm saying it's a negotiating platform.
I know, but I asked you, David, what policies you think Donald Trump, is going to implement that you think will help the people that you say you're concerned about, and I believe you when you say you're concerned about these families.
And I think that policy, now granted, I could be wrong. I haven't seen a ton of history of tariffs in this country. What I'm saying now is what is currently going on is just, it's simply untenable. It's not doable. I mean, 2 out of 3 Americans basically live paycheck to paycheck. And I'm not blaming Biden or Harris. I'm not even saying all of it was Trump's fault. He has a decent amount of it to blame with how he handled COVID, but that was still a long time ago. But regardless,
you think Trump did a good job handling COVID?
No, I'm saying I don't think he did a good job handling COVID. I'm saying that was quite a long time ago. But what I'm
not
saying
really.
is,
it wasn't that long time, and I think it has cause and effect when it has to do with the economy, when it has to do with homelessness, it has to do with immigrants crossing the border. I think it wasn't that long ago.
If you're going to talk about immigrants crossing the border, you can't ignore the fact. I mean, 10 million under Biden, and we're just supposed to say, oh yeah. But the bill that they introduced at the tail end of his administration was going to be this wonderful, magnificent bill. I mean, they flooded this country with illegal labor and illegal migrants, and surprise, surprise, they lost the election. I don't know what the hell they thought was going to happen by letting the border just effectively be wide open.
Okay, so that's a lie. The border is not wide open, and I'm wondering if you would understand
a border where you can just walk in casually is more or less wide open.
The border is not wide open. That's factually inaccurate.
10 million people came in. What else can you call it?
The border is not wide open. That is factually inaccurate, and there are less people crossing the border illegally today than they were when Donald Trump left office. I'm sorry if you don't like facts, but I can't get into the immigration conversation with you, David. I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL. What's up, Paul?
Oh, hey, I just want to remind David that she voted for a adjudicated rapist, so I hope that's worth sleeping at night, David. I hope you're proud of that. Oh, my God.
It's a valid point.
You know, yeah, I mean, he's ridiculous. He's a clown. The reason that houses are expensive is this. 3 people in this country own 50% of the wealth, right? Elon Musk, Bezos, and the president-elect Musk and Zuckerberg and Bezos. What do you think is going to happen when they have so much wealth? They're going to buy up this land in Los Angeles, people like them, and they're going to rent it out to people who are already they can't meet ends meet. Those people are going to have to pay mortgages and pay rent or a hotel at the same time.
Right.
Most of them can't afford to rebuild their house, which is probably going to cost the average person $150,000 to $200,000. That's why California is expensive. It's because of rich people. 40 million people live here, 11% of the population, the 3rd largest economy. Everybody keeps saying that California is this desolate hellscape. Why do so many people live here if it's such a dumpster fire? It's not. We got 5 national parks. We got deserts, forests, rivers that we fly fish in, surfing. The Olympics are going to be here. We got Disneyland, SeaWorld. Sounds like a real dystopian hellscape, doesn't it, Brian? Yeah. Sounds like a real shithole of a state.
Yeah,
Sounds like an absolute dump.
Yeah, there are parts of California that are just absolutely beautiful, and obviously our heart goes out to everybody that's been affected here. But the way these MAGA Republicans, handle these situations, it's so despicable to me. It's so despicable. You got Gavin Newsom, who's emotional in these interviews. He's speaking with families. He's trying to do everything he can. And for some people, that's not enough. I understand that. But the misinformation and the lies, Donald Trump has yet to talk about the victims here in a compassionate way. All he's done is make this political. He hasn't flown out there. He hasn't spoken to families. He hasn't raised money. He hasn't done anything but tweet on the crapper. That's all he's done. And that's all these MAGA Republicans do. They're not people that are of action. All they do is tweet and bitch and complain and try to score political points, and they have no solutions to anything. Oh, we just need more water in there. Why weren't the helicopters up there when it started? Because there were 100-mile-an-hour per winds, you idiots.
Yeah, Brian, here's what I think is going to happen the next 4 years. I see a lot of people on TikTok. I have a channel. I see a lot of people that are working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. They're working 2 and 3 jobs. Hell, I know people that didn't know about January 6th because they're working so many hours. They can barely make ends meet. I've seen people that were homeless that were so excited to get a house, and they're working so many hours They can barely pay rent and buy food. People are just tired of living in this perpetual level of poverty because that's what's happening in an oligarchy.
Yeah.
And what happened during COVID was you and me and a lot of people went to social media, and it created something called an illusory truth, where if you hear a lie enough, this is what happened. And I know that he's not Hitler. I get that. But the way that Hitler took over is that he told lies every single day. And when you look at experiments, when people that are uneducated, that are angry, that are pissed off,
Yep.
that want to own the libs, hear the same thing over and over and over again, no amount of fact that you and I tell them, no evidence, no scientific data, no videos, no proof, even eyewitnesses, they'll dismiss it all because they don't want to believe it. And that's where we are. I think COVID pushed a lot of people to just believing a bunch of BS because that anger that they have from living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Donald Trump has said, blame the libs for your problems instead of pulling yourselves up by the bootstraps.
Yep.
And I don't know how you fix that without dealing with the economic inequality in this country.
Well, that's the problem, right, Paul? Great call as usual. That's the problem. Equality. Donald Trump, if you want to see a lack of equality, the people that Donald Trump hangs out with, just go to Mar-a-Lago where they give him a standing ovation any room he goes into when they give the fat slob a standing ovation, right? The orange orangutan at Mar-a-Lago hanging out with his white billionaire elitist friends. The MAGA Republicans want to talk about the Hollywood elitists. No, the real elitists are the ones that Donald Trump hangs out with and some that are going to be in his administration and the vice president or the president, whatever you want to call him, President Musk and Vice President Donald Trump. Let's go to the MAGA destroyer, Darlene, next up. Darlene, what's going on? What you got for me today?
Brian. Now, who was the dude you were just talking to?
You're talking about David, not Paul. Yeah, David is the MAGA.
Okay, David. No disrespect, but you get the Dunce Award for the day because, my God, I cannot believe how uninformed you are. You should go back and look at some of Kamala Harris's videos that she put out. This is the problem with Republicans. They all think that the Democrats and people like me, they think we all want a damn handout. Well, let me tell you something. It's not true. Democrats work just as damn hard as Republicans, and we all don't want a handout.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a few more things.
Have you ever,
go ahead, Brian.
Darlene, have you ever heard Kamala Harris said she had concepts of a plan?
No.
I have concepts.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, it is. It is.
And I'll tell you what, we need to get, from now on, this is what we need in the White House, Congress, everywhere. Senators, Congress. We want lie detectors. We're going to hook everybody up, including Donald Trump. And every time you lie, we're going to know it. So I think that should be mandatory that we have.
Here's what I want.
Lie detectors.
Here's what I want. Must-see television, okay? I think you should put some sort of electrocution mechanism on Donald Trump's genitals, and every single time he lies, buzz it off. That's what I think we should do.
Oh, don't.
I would watch that. I don't think I think there's a lot of people that would speak for me that would want to enjoy watching it. I don't think the man is capable of telling the truth. So you could have him hooked up to that, and he would probably still lie.
And let me say these two things real quick, and then I'll go. Listen to this, Brian. I'm looking at it right now. Oklahoma aims to ban all but 2 cities from providing homeless shelters, homeless outreach, except for Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
I do.
They don't care about people. Republicans do not care about people.
Yeah, particularly
it's sickening.
I agree with you, Darlene. Great call. And unfortunately, so many on the far right want to make it about politics and attacking Governor Newsom instead of having any basic understanding of how these fires started, which they're still trying to investigate, and what we need to do to help those that are in need. Donald Trump wants to just blame Gavin Newsom and Democrats and George Soros for all of their problems. They did it in New Orleans. They wanted to blame open border policies and migrants. They did it with the Tesla explosion. They said it was a crazy lunatic lefty when in fact it was a big Trump supporter. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Annette, who's calling from Canada. Hi, Annette.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Good. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind today?
Yeah. No problem. I've been listening to your show for quite a while now.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you have a large Canadian following.
I do get a lot of people from Canada that hit me up, believe it or not, which is pretty cool. So I do appreciate that. Yep.
Yeah, well, you are our neighbor, and a lot of people here are kind of trying to shelter themselves from what's going on in the United States, but I think it's important that we're all educated.
Speaking of educated, what do you feel about Donald Trump wanting you guys to be the 51st state? What do you think about that?
Well, that's ridiculous, number one.
It is.
And number two, if you look at some of the statistics in America and you compare them to Canada, I think most Americans would be very surprised. You see, I watch a lot of C-SPAN, I watch a lot of the House, what goes on, and you have GOP members who are actually taking precious time off the floor to talk about transgender basketball.
Yeah.
Well, what's with that? You have a population that has 38.6% under the poverty rate. And they're busy talking about transgender people.
This is how sick they're sick.
It's 1.6% of your population.
In Canada, they don't obsess over transgenders. They don't want to ban all these books, right? In Canada, you don't have the gun violence that you have in the United States of America. You've got great health care out there. In Canada, they're not talking about trans women going into restrooms, nowhere near to the level that they do here, because people in this country, particularly MAGA Republicans, have their priorities effed up. They think that drag queen reading is more. Yeah, they think drag queen readers are more of a threat to children than what's taking place.
The whole idea behind CRT is ridiculous.
Oh, that's another don't even get me.
It's like them trying to cover up what happened on January 6th.
Yeah.
I sat at home, watched my TV. Anybody with a brain could see it was an insurrection.
This
does it take?
This is how unserious the Republicans are, my dear, and I appreciate your call. So we have some breaking news. House Republicans have just introduced a bill that would allow Trump to enter negotiations with Denmark to acquire Greenland. I mean, the world is laughing at us right now. This is crazy stuff we're talking about here. And the problem is there's not a lot of serious people around Donald Trump to tell him, hey, Mr. President-elect, stop. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Christine. I believe Christine is next up on PTL. Hey, Christine, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
So it's hard to get through. So I have a few things. Hopefully I can get through them. I want to say something to David. Hey, David, maybe if we would have less homeless if Republicans would quit giving tax cuts to the wealthy, causing a greater disparity between, the wealthy and the lower middle class. I mean, just a thought. And then I just want to say I'm really frustrated with, this misinformation machine that the Republicans like to start. We all are frustrated. But I do think it's time for the Democratic Party to make some significant changes. I agree with the guest you had on.
Yeah.
Playing nice isn't going to work anymore.
Well, I agree. Right? I agree with you. And Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. Well, I understand what she's trying to say. I agree with you, my dear, but that's not going to work to win elections in 2025. Thank you so much for the call. Running up against the clock here, so try to get as many calls as I can. Let's go to Jack, who MAGA Jack, he wants to be called. I would assume that means Jack is a Trump supporter, and that's fine. I appreciate him calling in. What's on your mind, Jack?
Yeah, Brian, that's MAGA Jack to you, my friend. And I like to take this opportunity. I just got done watching Newsmax, and I just want to take this opportunity to blame some immigrant Mexicans for the fires. And
okay, are you being serious or are you joking?
In California. Bear with me a minute.
Okay. You got me. Jack got me there. Jack, I thought you were one of those doofus MAGA Republicans because you sounded like one, and I got to say, you're a very good impersonator. You had me there because Jack, that's the way a lot of these people think.
Brian, don't blame them for anything. They'll tell you that the Mexican lawn keepers are cutting the grass too short and it's dry, and that's why the fires and mixed with the Taco Bell wrappers. It's a recipe for disaster. And then you got the woke transgender fire hydrants that are painted rainbow colors.
Jack, this is how
Skittles instead of water, and it's just insanity.
Jack, this is how crazy things are. I actually thought you were a serious MAGA supporter.
Yeah.
I actually believed you because that's the stuff they say.
I know. Well, it was probably too perfect a situation to pull it off.
Make no mistake about it, Jack. You sounded like a typical Trump supporter. Not every Trump supporter, but your typical Trump supporter with 3 teeth, living in a mobile home that has no education and watches, as you said, Newsmax all day. You sounded like an insurrectionist. That's what you sounded like.
I tried.
Good job, Jack. You got me, my friend. I appreciate the call. I got to run to some other callers. Thank you for the call, Jack. You're the best. He had me there for about 5 or 10 seconds. Then he started laughing. Let's go to Al. Al is next up on PTL. Hey, Al, what's going on?
I tried to get in earlier, so I just want to ask you, why do we look like idiots for allowing Trump to go and negotiate for to increase our country?
Sure.
When we really look like idiots when
I'll
Biden
explain.
pulled out and left all the weapons over in Afghanistan. Why do we look like idiots? Go ahead.
So first of all, you're mischaracterizing what took place in Afghanistan. So once again, I will try to inform and educate you. They left weapons for the Afghan government. It wasn't Joe Biden's fault that the Afghan government deserted those weapons and they were taken by the Taliban. By the way, the same people that Donald Trump invited to Camp David, but I'm sure you didn't have a problem about that and releasing 5,000 Taliban terrorists. So that's number one. Let's get that out of the way because you're factually inaccurate. Number two, if you're going to talk about Greenland, it was Donald Trump. We have a lot of priorities in this country and a lot of issues that I think we would agree that need to be worked upon. And the last thing on the priority list should be taking over Greenland. And Donald Trump said he didn't rule out military force when it comes to taking over Greenland. I thought your party was the party of peace and prosperity, law and order, the party that doesn't want ill-advised wars. He's already threatened the Panama Canal and now Greenland with military force. As a staunch Republican and Donald Trump supporter, do you support threatening military force to take over Greenland and the Panama Canal? Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, the Panama Canal, if they're violating our treaty, by the way I understand that that we could take it back, and it's they're violating in such a way that our country is at a threat, yes. For Greenland, I don't think, I'd have to look at his exact words. I don't think he said that he is going to go over there and use military force. We're trying to negotiate, and that's what we're going to do. So
we're not
idiots at this point. So we don't look at idiots at this point when we're going for negotiations. Go ahead.
We're not trying to negotiate. The orange orangutan adjudicated rapist who you voted for is that's his negotiating tactic. You had Don Jr. And Charlie Kirk fly to Greenland. They got a bunch of homeless people, had them put on a MAGA hat in a picture and gave them a meal. They went to a couple bars and they left. These are not serious. Hold on.
Okay, well,
these are not. Hold on. Hold on.
Congress.
I'll tell you what it has to do. It has to do with non-serious people. It has to do with people that are not serious and care about the real issues facing this country. Gun violence, abortion, healthcare. So let's get this straight. Donald Trump still doesn't have a replacement plan for Obamacare. Healthcare is one of the top 3 issues on most Americans' minds in every poll that you look at. And yet Donald Trump wants to take over Greenland, and that seems to be his top priority, at least over the course of the last month or so, but still has concepts of a plan when it comes to healthcare. So is that making America great and making it first?
Well, the thing is that from what I understand about Greenland is that it's a security threat because of the fact that ships are coming through.
Oh, stop it. Greenland has never been a major security threat to this country. That is absurd. You know what's a threat to this country? Let me ask you a question. What do you think is more of a threat to this country and the world? Greenland or Vladimir Putin? Because Donald Trump said he understood why Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, and Donald Trump is the guy who sent COVID test kits to Vladimir Putin during COVID. What do you think is a bigger threat to the United States of America and the world? Greenland?
Trump already said that he's going to try to stop. Trump already said he's going to try to stop the war.
Yeah,
So he's
yeah.
aware that that's a
In that
major
case,
issue.
as long as you say you're going to try to stop it, I guess. Let me tell you something. He said he was going to end the war in 24 hours. Now, all of a sudden, it's 6 months. What do you think is more of a threat to this country? Vladimir Putin or Greenland? Please answer the question.
Well, the thing is that
you can't answer
we're talking
that?
about Greenland, and we're talking about what we don't. I don't think we look like idiots.
Al, I'm going to ask you again because now you look like an idiot, with all due respect. I'm going to ask you one more time. What do you think is a bigger threat to the United States of America? Vladimir Putin, who invaded Ukraine and is responsible for killing hundreds of thousands of people, including journalists. What do you think is more of a threat to the country and the world? Vladimir Putin or Greenland? I'm asking you again. Please answer.
Know.
You don't know. Folks, we've reached a new low on PTL. Al doesn't know if Greenland is a bigger threat to the United States of America or Vladimir Putin. Folks, for the first time in my 20-year career on the radio, I'm speechless. We've run out of time. Al, you're welcome to call back tomorrow and tell me why you can't answer that question and you don't think Vladimir Putin is more of a threat to this country than Greenland. We are doomed. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Please check out the official gaming bar of the Pushing the Limits radio show, which is Jackson's Bar and Grill. They're not a threat to us like apparently Greenland is. You can have a chance to win up to $500 in free slot play. The Pass the Puck contest. I'm a little disheveled doing this live read right now. I can't believe what I just heard. Check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. We are planning on having a 50-year veteran firefighter join us on the show tomorrow to kind of give us actual facts on what's taking place in California. To answer the question that Al refused or couldn't answer, Greenland is not a threat to this country. It's nonsense. Vladimir Putin is probably a million times more of a threat to the country and the world than Greenland is, but yet Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about the threat that Vladimir Putin poses. That's why I brought that up. He wants to talk about Greenland and chips. I mean, it's insanity, ladies and gentlemen. Check out my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. Again, my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. Subscribe for free. Check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. You can buy merchandise up there. You can make donations. We're an independently owned radio show. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live. Thanks to my guest, Ryan Shedd, and of course, all of my listeners, even my special MAGA supporters that call into the show. I appreciate you guys as well. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a great day, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That